Arnel Narvaiz. Even his name carries the weight of unanswered questions, a mystery suspended over Sacramento County for years. In the early 1990s, Arnel vanished without a trace, his car, his life, and his story disappearing into thin air. Friends and family searched tirelessly, but every lead ended in dead silence. Arnel was more than a missing person. He was a son, a friend, a young man whose potential was cut short. The community whispered theories. Had he run away? Was it an accident? Or had something more sinister occurred along the quiet roads of Sacramento County? For decades, no one knew. The case grew cold, files gathered dust, and hope seemed to fade with each passing year. But some mysteries refused to stay buried. Years later, a breakthrough came from an unexpected place: the Sacramento County River. Advanced sonar technology, combined with skilled dive teams, revealed a sunken vehicle, long forgotten, submerged, hidden beneath layers of sediment and water. The shape was unmistakable: Arnel Narvaiz's car. And inside, the truth waited, silent for decades. This discovery would not only answer the question of where he had gone, but reveal the tragic final chapter of a life lost too soon. Arnel Narvaiz was a 24-year-old from Sacramento County with a bright future and a life full of promise. On the morning of his disappearance, he left home in his reliable compact car, heading to work and running a few errands along the river roads near the outskirts of town. It was a route he had traveled countless times before, familiar and uneventful, or so everyone thought. Witnesses later recalled seeing him drive past a small bridge over the Sacramento County River around mid-morning. He waved to a neighbor as he passed, completely unaware that this would be the last time anyone saw him alive. By late afternoon, when Arnel failed to return home, concern turned to panic. His family immediately reported him missing. Early investigators launched searches along the roads, fields, and nearby wooded areas. Boats were deployed to scan the riverbanks, and volunteers joined in, hoping for a clue, any clue, about Arnel's whereabouts. However, despite extensive searches, the river remained silent. Divers reported murky waters, strong currents, and poor visibility. Sonar technology at the time was limited, unable to penetrate deep sections of the river. Each attempt to locate the car yielded nothing, and with each passing week, the case grew colder. During these early months, authorities considered multiple possibilities. Accidental disappearance. Perhaps Arnel had lost control of his car near the riverbank. Runaway. Some speculated he left intentionally, though nothing in his behavior suggested this. Foul play. While authorities could not rule it out entirely, there was no evidence of third-party involvement. Years passed, leads dried up, families moved away, and memories of that fateful day began to blur. The case slipped quietly into the archives, classified as a long-term missing person investigation. Yet, the river, dark and expansive, held the secret all along. 30 years of unanswered questions, whispered fears, and silent grief would finally find resolution thanks to advances in technology and tireless investigators who refused to forget. Decades after Arnel Narvaiz vanished, the Sacramento County River still held its secret tightly. Early searches had failed, and for 30 years, the family had only questions, no answers. But in recent years, technological advances in underwater searches gave investigators new hope. A specialized cold case recovery team, equipped with high-resolution sonar and underwater drones, revisited the river. Their mission: systematically scan sections that had been impossible to reach in the 1990s. The river, wide and deceptively deep in places, had long frustrated search efforts. Currents, sediment buildup, and overgrown vegetation made it nearly impossible to detect a submerged vehicle. Then, on a late morning, the sonar screen flickered. A strange, rectangular outline appeared beneath layers of silt. Divers were dispatched immediately. As they descended, the dark water swallowed their flashlights, and the murky riverbed came into view. Slowly, shapes began to emerge. There it was, a compact car, partially buried in sediment, lying at an angle that suggested it had rolled into the river rather than crashed violently. Divers pried open the doors carefully. Inside, they found remains. Human remains. Forensic teams confirmed shortly after. It was Arnel Narvaiz. The position of the body and the car told a grim story. The seatbelt was still latched, suggesting Arnel had been driving at the time of submersion. There was no indication of another vehicle or external involvement. The car had simply gone into the river, possibly due to a miscalculation along the embankment. Investigators meticulously documented every detail: the car's angle, the sediment around the tires, and objects inside that had survived decades underwater. Even after 30 years, the discovery provided a tangible connection to a life that had been lost, finally bringing clarity to a case that had baffled Sacramento County for decades. The community reacted with a mixture of grief and relief. 30 years of uncertainty were suddenly replaced with knowledge. Harsh, but conclusive. With Arnel Narvaiz's car recovered from the Sacramento County River, the investigation entered a new, critical phase. Forensic experts examined every detail of the vehicle, the remains, and the surrounding sediment to reconstruct the events of that fateful day. The first key observation was the angle of submersion. The car had entered the river gradually, suggesting a slow slide rather than a high-speed accident or a forced plunge. Investigators concluded that Arnel likely lost control near a soft, unstable embankment. The weight of the car, combined with the loose soil and the slope of the riverbank, caused it to tip and slide into the water. Inside the car, the seatbelt position and personal items provided crucial insights. Arnel had secured himself, indicating he was aware of the danger but likely unable to react fast enough. There were no signs of a struggle or external interference. Objects in the car, wallet, keys, and personal belongings were largely intact, suggesting a solitary accident rather than foul play. Experts also examined the riverbed and sediment around the car. Over decades, silt had accumulated, partially concealing the vehicle. The water currents and seasonal changes had slowly pushed the car deeper into the river, which explained why previous searches had failed. This insight demonstrated how the natural environment had kept the tragedy hidden for 30 years. By reconstructing the final moments, investigators painted a harrowing picture. Arnel Narvaiz drove along a familiar road near the river, likely distracted or misjudging the embankment. The car slid into the water, submerging slowly. Trapped inside, he had little chance to escape. The river became both the final resting place and the silent keeper of his story. For the family, these findings were devastating, yet clarifying. The uncertainty and endless speculation of the past 30 years were replaced with facts. The accident explained everything: why he disappeared, why the searches failed, and why the river had remained silent for decades. The forensic conclusion: an accidental submersion with no third-party involvement, a tragic miscalculation that ended a young life too soon. After 30 long years, the mystery of Arnel Narvaiz's disappearance was finally solved. The recovery of his car and remains from the Sacramento County River brought answers that had been desperately sought by his family, friends, and the wider community. But the truth, while relieving in its clarity, also carried the weight of profound sadness. For Arnel's family, the past 3 decades had been a slow, aching struggle. Every day without him brought a new question, a new worry, and a lingering fear that he had simply vanished without explanation. Birthdays, holidays, milestones, he missed them all. Each unanswered call, each rumor, each dead-end lead reopened wounds that never fully healed. The uncertainty had been a constant shadow over their lives. When investigators confirmed Arnel's identity, the family faced a mixture of grief and relief. They finally knew what had happened, and there was no longer room for wild speculation or false hope. Though tragic, the closure allowed them to begin the healing process. A small memorial service was held by the Sacramento County River, the place that had silently held Arnel for so many years. Family, friends, and neighbors gathered, lighting candles along the riverbank and sharing stories of his life. Stories of kindness, laughter, and the moments that defined him. The broader community, too, felt the impact of the discovery. People who had followed the case for years expressed relief that the mystery was finally solved. Teachers, neighbors, and local authorities reflected on the importance of persistence in cold cases and the value of modern technology in solving decades-old disappearances. The narrative of Arnel Narvaiz became not just a story of tragedy, but a story of persistence, dedication, and the tireless pursuit of truth. Forensic teams highlighted the lessons learned from the case. Modern sonar and underwater recovery techniques had made it possible to locate the vehicle that previous searches missed. The river, once a silent keeper of a secret, had finally revealed its truth. The accident was reconstructed with precision. Arnel's car had slid into the riverbank's soft soil, the vehicle slowly submerging. Trapped inside, he had no chance to escape. It was a tragic accident, yet one that brought finality to years of speculation. The closure extended beyond facts. It was deeply emotional. For 30 years, Arnel's name had lingered as a symbol of loss and uncertainty. Now, it became a symbol of remembrance, a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of never giving up on the missing. His story inspired other families and investigators to continue searching for answers in cases long thought unsolvable. And that brings us to the conclusion of the Arnel Narvaiz case. A young man, missing for decades, finally found in the depths of a river he unknowingly became trapped in. 30 years of questions, pain, and uncertainty finally met an answer. A tragic accident that is now understood, documented, and remembered. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe that every missing person deserves closure, and if you want to follow more deep-dive investigations into cold cases that span decades, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications so you never miss another case. Share this story to honor Arnel Narvaiz's memory. And remember, every missing person deserves to be found, and every story deserves an ending. Because sometimes, even after decades, the truth comes up from the depths.